Hello, and welcome back to your Agenda programme. We are going to be turning back to our hot topic of e-bikes and e-motorbikes, in part because we had such a huge response yesterday, and there is so much more, I think, for us to sort of dig into. I have to be honest, I was a bit worried about doing it 2 days in a row, but I think we have got quite a lot more to add. And if you weren't listening, we were basically ranting about teenagers and young adults driving really dangerously on these new e-bikes that seem to have just sort of burst onto the market. They seem to have just become really popular. And they're kind of a hybrid between an e-bicycle and a downright electric motorbike. And they look very cool. The ones I've seen in my community and that Richard Dean, for example, was talking about, they look a bit like dirt bikes. The kind of scrambler bikes, they're very fast. And the problem is they are very popular with teens. And that is why concerns over safety are growing. And if you've got a concern, I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch, 4001. We're kind of drawing a sort of mind map here of where the problems seem to lie, which areas are really struggling. You can also WhatsApp me on 04871 5500. Because let's be honest, in a lot of situations, they are not being used for commuting. They are being used for fun. And there are lots of reports of accidents involving them, and there's lots of teenagers who are sort of getting themselves into trouble. And it's leading us to ask really serious questions about things like speed, rider behaviour, and then, of course, whether the current regulations are enough to keep people safe. And you can understand why the authorities maybe are trying to sort of race to catch up with the technology, because 6 months ago, I'd never seen an e-motorbike, and now it feels like they're everywhere. Literally, I was really surprised, actually, by the response yesterday, just how many people got in touch saying, yes, it's a problem in my area. Yes, it's a problem in my area. Yes, I nearly got run over by one on the beach track. All of those types of things. Let's find out first a little bit more about these bikes with someone who actually sells them. And what was lovely was that Gary was listening to our show yesterday, got in touch near the end of the programme and said, look, I really know a lot about these bikes. I sell them. Can I come in and tell you about it? Actually, you didn't say, can I come in? We actually just invited you. You were like, I can get on a call. And we were like, no. Come into the studio and talk to us. So we are now joined by Gary Flint, listener and operations manager for Trek Bicycle. Gary, great to have you with us.
It's a pleasure. It's awesome to be here. And this is, I think you opened up a can of worms yesterday.
My goodness, we really did.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're on the radio, you slightly exaggerate about the number of people who get in touch with you. I did not have to exaggerate yesterday. It went wild. Okay, so first of all, tell me about the e-bikes that you sell in your shop, Trek Bicycle.
Yeah, so there's different categories of e-bikes, right? So there's the e-bicycle, which is the ones that we sell, which is a pedal assist system. So that means that while you're pedaling the bicycle, the bike gives you a little bit of energy back, a little bit of power back into the pedals, which helps to propel you forward. The other bikes that I think which are causing a bit of an issue at the moment is the non-pedal assist. It's ones that have literally got like a throttle, so like the electric motorbikes. Yeah, that's something that we definitely do not sell.
Oh, you don't sell those?
We do not sell the motorbike style. Ours is the pedal assist option. That's great for people who want to get out there, get fit. I know that it's the electric bike and some people sometimes think you're cheating, but no, it actually does give you a good workout, and it allows people of different abilities to actually cycle together.
Yeah, I have to say, I used one of the Kareem bikes recently. They're quite heavy, and it definitely still felt like a workout, even with the motor going. I cycled all the way from Jumeirah all the way to the end of the beach kind of thing. It was quite a long way, and I was quite tired by the end, and I'm reasonably fit. Are yours a little lighter than those, maybe?
Yes, ours are obviously designed for sport use, whereas the Kareem bikes are more from a commuting point of view. So our bikes are definitely sort of like that, more performance based. So you're going to be able to get out and go for a 50-kilometer ride and come back and have actually enjoyed the ride. The Kareem bike style, I think 50 Ks of that.
I'd die.
You're going to look for a spa for recovery.
Also, the seats are really uncomfortable. I was a bit like, oh, wow, there's a muscle there, is there? How interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, how about the e-motorbikes that you don't sell? That's really interesting because there's clearly a big market for them. How come you haven't got them in your store?
Yeah, so for us, we are one of the bigger brands in the world, being Trek, and we kind of have some regulations from Trek themselves. So the e-bicycles that we get are governed. And what that means is that our speed is digitally regulated. So depending on which market we actually get our bikes from, they can only go between sort of 25 to 30 kilometers an hour, which is a lot safer than some of these electric motorbikes that you see on the road going like 60, 70 Ks an hour.
Yeah.
So ours are governed, and there isn't really a way around that. So that, definitely makes it a lot safer for people.
Okay. And then how are those, how are they treated differently? So, let's go back a step.
Yep.
So when you bring those bikes into the UAE, have you been told that that's the speed they're allowed to go, basically?
Yeah, so we haven't been told by UAE, but because of buying the bikes from Europe or from the US, where it is heavily regulated, those bikes are capped at certain speed limits. So I know there are workarounds, which we don't do, but our ones are governed from the factories at 25 or 30 kilometers an hour. So we're not going to go above that.
But that's interesting, because that means in other jurisdictions there are proper regulations that that have come into force, and maybe it's just that we haven't quite got those yet here in the UAE, and that's kind of what we maybe need. How about, so the reason why you don't sell the e-motorbikes is because they would just fall into a completely different category? Yeah,
100%. So like, for us selling an electric mountain bike or an electric road bike, you kind of know what that customer is going to be using the bike for. These other e-motorbikes, it's like, I'm a parent myself. My kids are asking me for them.
Yeah, my kids are.
They look super cool. I see kids rocking up to schools on them, and it's just that it's ungoverned. The speed limits on these things can reach pretty crazy speeds. There's no regulation around them, which I think is what we need.
Yeah.
I do think, primarily because of the speed that these bikes go, I do think that I don't have a problem with people bringing them into the country, but I think they do need to be having a bit of a speed limit on them, because it can get crazy.
It really can get crazy. Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned there that you've seen kids on them. In your community, is it a problem?
So we have a lot of kids have gone from the electric scooters. Now they're starting to go across to these electric motorbikes. And I get it. Like, as a father, I get it. Like, it gives the kids a bit of freedom, right? It's like when you got your car driving license.
Oh, yeah.
You get your license.
I was 17. I was on top of the world.
Exactly.
I was like, I'll give you a lift anywhere.
And the kids are getting the same sort of feeling from this, like a bit of independence, right? And in the communities, I know that there was a question around, is it the RTA or is it the community's responsibility? For me and my community, it's an EMAR community, and having a chat with them, anything that's within the community becomes an EMAR issue, right? So RTA don't have any jurisdiction, or whatever you want to call it, in that area. Outside on the public roads, yes, RTA can control that. But within the communities, it's up to the community management to set these rules in place.
What would you say to the critics who think that these bikes are sort of making the roads more dangerous for cyclists and pedestrians? What do you think we need to see in the UAE to make things better?
I think it needs to be nipped in the bud from the start. So any of this new technology that comes in, I do think there needs to be regulation. So like I mentioned earlier, speed limit, I do think it needs to be something where every single person needs to be wearing a helmet. And there needs to be certain places where people can ride these bikes. A cycle path is possible because of the speeds that they're going, but dodging in and out of traffic is not a place for these sort of motorbikes.
It's slightly deadly. Do you worry slightly that if regulation does come in, it could impact on your e-bicycle side of things? It's quite important to divide these two into different categories, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. So I don't from our side, from a bicycle, actual pedal bicycle point of view, I don't see it being an issue. But I do think if a bit more regulation comes in from these electric motorbikes, I think it would be put in place for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it seems like a bit of a Wild West. Like, it's just you get one and no one's really controlling it, right? And it does become dangerous.
They don't have registration plates, do they?
Exactly.
Like it really is. They really do fall into that grey area of not a vehicle but clearly a vehicle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
And
going
what
off on
happens
one
if
now.
you have an incident on one, right?
Yeah, I mean, where's the insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're now entering the ranting area, which is absolutely fine. We're here to rant in a certain extent. And if you're listening now and you want to rant, we are very happy to provide you with that platform. But Gary, thank you so much. That was so interesting to sort of tease out the difference there between the two different types of machines. Gary Flint, Operations Manager for Trek Bicycle. Thank you very much indeed. So many comments coming in already. Keep them coming, 4001, or you can WhatsApp me 04871 5500. This person says there's a big problem around spinnies and in the meadows and Jumeirah Park. You've got teens driving in the main roads and around community car parks, doing wheelies and even racing cars, often with no helmet and no concern for their safety. The parents need to take more control over the purchase and use of these bikes, since the kids won't, and we're going to end up in deaths or injuries. Keep those comments coming. I'd love to hear from you.
More of The Agenda is coming up next
on the UAE's #1 talk radio station.